Hello, folks, and welcome to another weekend of Mug Notes. Today, we're going to be talking about comma rules. So, across the top of your notebook sheet of paper, make sure you have your header filled in with the title Mug 3 Comma Rules. As a reminder, your name, date, period are required to go in the top right hand corner of all notebook sheets of paper. Your header should be filled in. Please be specific with your titles. So, today, we're talking about Comma Rules Part 1. Keep in mind, if your notes expand past the first page or the first piece of notebook paper, your headers for the next notebook sheet of paper that you use should say something like page 2 or 3, and then you can mark the first one up with part 1, page 1. Alright, let's talk about comma rules. We are going to be going over 4 comma rules today. I'll put them all up first before we start talking, or at least half of them. Alright, comma rule number 1. We use commas to separate independent clauses that are joined with a coordinating conjunction. If you know your parts of speech, conjunctions are words that are used to join parts of sentences together. Coordinating conjunctions are fanboys. There's only these ones that you need to know for coordinating conjunctions. F stands for, A for and, N for nor, B for but, O for or, Y for yet, and S for so. If you can memorize these, you already know all of your coordinating conjunctions. So we use a comma to separate an independent clause, or a part of a sentence that can stand on its own, joined with a coordinating conjunction. So one of our fanboys. Take a look here. He walked down the street and then he turned the corner. Our fanboy is right here in pink. And now we need to figure out which part of the sentence is an independent clause. Is it, and then he turned a corner? Can that be a sentence on its own? And then he turned the corner. Or would it be this one? He walked down the street. This seems like it's an independent clause, because if we were to put a period right here, this would be a complete sentence, whereas this would not. Remember, we do not start our sentences with and. Rule number 2. We use a comma after an introductory clause or prepositional phrase. These are typically going to be anywhere from 3 to 4 or more words. So an introductory clause is a dependent clause, so it's the opposite of this one that we saw here. A dependent clause, remember, cannot stand on its own as a sentence. So an introductory clause is a group of words that provide some kind of background information for the main part of the sentence. It could start with the word although, or as, because, before, since, though, when, and so on and so forth. When Evan was ready to iron, you see, like, there's like a natural pause yet lilt to the sentence as we say it. That's kind of what tells us we need to put a comma there. So in our minds, we have a general idea of where commas are supposed to go. We might not know why, so it's equally important to learn where they go and why they go there. When Evan was ready to iron, introductory clause, comma, his cat tripped on the cord. That is your independent clause. A prepositional phrase is a series of words that contains a preposition and its object. So, with a reusable tote in hand, Karen made her way into the farmer's market. Rules 3 and 4. These ones are a little easier than maybe rule 2. Rule 3 says we use a comma between all items in a series, and we use this when we have 3 or more things in a row. For example, we bought apples. I don't know why that says applies. It should be apples. We bought apples, peaches, and bananas today. Now, if this said we bought apples, peaches, bananas, and pineapples, we would have apples, comma, peaches, comma, bananas, comma, and pineapples. So this second comma here, or the comma right before the and, is called an Oxford comma. There are some arguments as to whether or not it is needed. I am going to tell you always have this third, or this Oxford comma in there. Let's just establish this as a standard in our writing from 9th grade forward. And then take a look at the second example. Remember, for the examples, I want you to write down at least one of the ones that I provide you for each thing that we talk about. This one, before I leave the house, I always make sure to have my wallet, keys, mask, and phone. Notice that these commas here highlighted in blue, wallet, comma, keys, comma, mask, comma. All of these are items in a series. This comma here, before I leave the house, is here thanks to rule number 2. The rule number 2, remember, talked about introductory clauses and prepositional phrases. So that's what this guy is here. That's why this comma exists in this location. These 3 commas exist thanks to rule number 3. Rule number 4 says we are going to use commas to set off non-restrictive or non-essential clauses. They kind of mean the same thing, referring to a group of words that are giving additional information about a word whose meaning is already clear. So that's what a non-restrictive or non-essential clause is. For example, John, comma, who spent the last 3 days fishing, comma, is back on the job again. So essentially, we could take out this part of the sentence, and the sentence would still make sense. John is back on the job again. It makes sense without this chunk. But this added information gives us more context, more meaning to who John is. Same thing in the second example. I heard that Sarah, comma, who lives next door, comma, won the lottery. We could have just said, I heard that Sarah won the lottery. But this gives us additional information. Those are the first 4 comma rules that we are going to be reviewing today. Please make sure that you have your notes, examples all ready for Monday's class. If you have any questions, write them down. Feel free to canvas me, send me a remind message, or write them down and bring them to class and we'll talk about it together. All right, guys, best of luck and I'll see you on Monday.